Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me in another video. So as you can tell based on the title, well today we are going to be talking about the style and the handbags of Emmanuelle Alt. Now I've had a few people ask me to talk about her style, and if you don't know, she's a very renowned French fashion editor, best known for her role as the editor-in-chief of Vogue Paris from 2011 to 2021. And she is celebrated for, I would say, her quintessentially Parisian style. She has this effortlessness, but she also kind of has this like rock and roll undertone to her fashion. Me personally, I've just been looking at her style more so recently, and I just thought, let's talk about it today. So Emmanuelle Alt, it is worth noting that her mother was actually a fashion model. She was already from a very young age immersed in the world of fashion. Her mother modeled for Nina Ricci and Lanvin, and she in her early years of her career was also a model. She started her fashion career in the late 80s at French Elle as a fashion editor, where she really owned her skills in styling and developed a strong understanding of editorial fashion. She later moved to I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, 20 Ans, a French youth-oriented magazine where she became fashion director. During her time there, she gained attention for her edgy, but I would also say like high-low dressing. There were elements of like, I would say very high luxury, but then she might wear something that was just a little bit more high street. And in 2000, she joined Vogue Paris as fashion director, working under Karine Roitfeld, the then editor-in-chief. When Roitfeld stepped down in 2011, Alt was appointed to editor-in-chief of Vogue Paris, where she had a lasting imprint on contemporary fashion. Like when I think about like Parisian fashion in the 2010s, she really captured this style. Then in 2021, she stepped down from her position following changes in the publishing industry and at Vogue globally. Since then, she has remained influential in fashion, often working on freelance styling projects and consulting for luxury brands. But when we're talking about Emmanuelle Alt style, she definitely does have a signature style, a signature look. She likes to play with this masculine, feminine balance, but again, there's also this kind of like undertone of rock and roll. And I'm using these terms like rock and roll or edgy in this video, but I actually want to be more specific and say that I think her style is closely aligned to, I think, a genre of music that was probably most popular like the mid-late 2000s, even in the 2010s. It was this genre of French electronic music, often referred to as the French touch. When we think about bands like Daft Punk or Justice, these musicians in that French house music scene, they not only had a distinct style of music, but there was also a style of fashion that was associated with that. Like the kinds of jackets Emmanuelle Alt wore, they had this stage-like element to them. You might say like a rock star, kind of an edgy element, but the way she does it, it's in this very French touch kind of way, and she kind of like adapted that into her own style. Her wardrobe really does reflect that like effortless sophistication that we would associate with a lot of Parisian women as well. And I think during the 2010s especially, it was really admired because it was this like fine balance of high and low. There was like luxury, but then there was like high street. There was embellishment, but there was also practicality. If you're somebody that really follows style blogs, specifically the later 2000s, 2010s, she's a name that you would see pop up. You would see photos of her posted quite heavily. Even in 2015, for the Jean-Paul Gaultier show, a model walked down the runway, and obviously Emmanuelle Alt was the inspiration for this look. Of course, this being my channel, we're going to talk about handbags here, and when we talk about French Parisian style, the immediate bag that I think so much of us think about is the Chanel Classic Flap, considered one of the most timeless, quintessential Parisian handbags of all time. It's one of the most beloved bags. Based on this image here, it looks like she's wearing this style in more of a fabric material. One thing she would also wear is just a lot of neutrals, a lot of blacks, grays, navies. She would wear colors and prints, but there was always some aspect of black in her outfit. And I would also say there's like a bit of a sharpness, and a lot of her looks also featured a lot of tailoring. A lot of her looks were very fitted jackets, the fitted blazer, and of course the skinny jeans that dominated the later 2000s and 2010s. If she wasn't wearing a skinny jean, sometimes you'd see her in something a little bit more wide-legged or even like a boot cut. I really do think of her style with the skinny jeans, and something about this kind of look just feels like perfectly finished with a Chanel classic flap. And then next we have here, she's wearing this Alexander McQueen skull clutch. Something about this time, I think this is like 2012, it kind of has this like undertone of an edginess to her. And I think the way she kind of makes her outfits a little bit more interesting is there's usually some kind of form of embellishment. Sometimes it could be in the form of a handbag. A lot of the times we will actually see it in like a coat or a jacket, but I think this is how she kind of adds just a little bit more dimension to her very neutral color palettes, very neutral outfits. Next, she's wearing the Saint Laurent Sac de Jour. There was something about seeing photos of her in like the 2010s, her being a Vogue editor, her having access to all the styles of the time. When you saw these images online, there was something that just felt like, oh yes, this is what's now, this is what's forward thinking. And the Saint Laurent Sac de Jour bag, again, it was a very beloved bag of the 2010s. Some might say, you know, this is kind of not the cool bag anymore, it's not the it bag, but it was very definitive of the 2010s. And I actually still think this looks like a great bag. And it does feel very Emmanuelle alt. The design of it has the accordion sides that expand for added space. The rolled leather handles feel like nice and substantial. There's also that detached shoulder strap, adding versatility. Next, we have her wearing the YSL cape bag. I can't really tell based on the image, but it looks like it's made in suede. And she's wearing this sequin blazer from what it looks like. A lot of her looks do feature some form of embellishment, be it on like the jackets, which I think was very signature for her, while the pants might have been a little bit more like sleek, going for a skinny fit or like a crop fit or something a little bit more flared, paired with like a pump or lace-up booties, but often the emphasis was on the jacket. And I think this was very signature of the late 2000s, even like the 2010s. Balmain was a brand that she wore quite heavily, and if you're gonna get like an embellished jacket from that era that was just a little bit tighter in fit, but you got the sharp shoulders, it was Balmain. And Balmain was a brand that she wore quite heavily, seen often wearing a lot of these very embellished jackets, very military inspired, very sharp shoulders. Yeah, Balmain was the brand for that. And honestly, I could see these coming back. I've still kept my Balmain blazer for a reason. I know people say that that is like very much out of style, but I think honestly like this look will come back in a new kind of way. For Emmanuelle alt, having an embellished jacket, blazers, whether it be like mixed in with metal accents, embroidery, studs, more often than not her it piece was the jacket. Next we have the Saint Laurent Emmanuelle bag. She was also known for wearing a lot of fringe, a little bit more on like the bohemian side, that French bohemian style. Eddie Slimane quite fittingly named this bag the Emmanuelle bag. It's more of like a bucket style and it's got the fringe. She's wearing it with like a fringe jacket with the cute little lace-up booties. And Emmanuelle alt was frequently seen wearing Saint Laurent, of course Balmain, as well as Isabel Marant. Of course these were more so on like the high-end side, but then she'd sprinkle in more high street. She would wear something from like Levi's. And she also wore a lot of these, I would say Isabel Marant, very voluminous, almost kind of like 80s inspired with some of these silhouettes, but then she might like cinch the jacket in with a belt, even just very like boho looking belt. Next we have the Celine Triomphe. This looks like it's in the medium style and it feels very in line with her style. And of course she's had a long-standing friendship with Eddie Slimane, wearing a lot of his pieces from the Saint Laurent to the Celine era. She does embrace a lot of menswear inspired pieces. I think pieces that are just pretty much, I would say, genderless at this point, but things like structured blazers, tuxedos, tailored pants. You won't really see her wearing a lot of dresses, a lot of skirts. I think there's more of a greater emphasis on things like the jacket and the coat, but like still keeping it a little bit more feminine, but like still creating more of that nipped in waist effect. Now, another thing that I also just want to point out here is how she does her beauty. Her beauty approach is very minimal, very like effortless, tousled hair, natural makeup, often bare nails, really taking on that less is more philosophy, but I wouldn't say it's anywhere near like what people describe in recent years as the clean girl aesthetic. I think clean girl, it has this very like done up, very perfect, you're trying to achieve this like no makeup look, very slicked back buns. I think with Emmanuelle alt, it's a little bit different. She allows herself to show her age. There's just sort of a naturalness about her beauty look, as well as a confidence in that. She is a mother, and just looking at a lot of the style blogging photos from the 2010s, you see her bring her daughter with her to the fashion shows. You can definitely tell she's a mom on the go. I know for me personally, there are just like many mornings where I have absolutely no time to put on makeup, but putting on a really good coat, it makes me feel really confident in myself. And I think Emmanuelle, I think she like definitely takes that up a notch with like jackets from like Balmain or like YSL or Isabel Marant. And I never make these videos because I want them to be like a copy and paste model. Buy this jacket or buy this handbag. For me personally, if I tried to wear a lot of these things, they just will look really terrible on me when looking at her style. Of course, we can say she has this Parisian chic effortlessness about her, but I think what she really nails so well is this masculine, feminine, this high and low luxury, finding the harmony or the balance in between these kinds of tensions, making them really work for her style. And I think that is what I personally really like from her sense of style. So yes, anyways guys, that's my video for today. And yeah, I've had a lot of people request that I talk about her style, and it's just fun talking about the different styles as well as handbags of many of these iconic fashion ladies. That's my video for today. Thank you so much for joining me in another one, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!